Okay, so I want to film this video. I've thought about it for a really long time. It is near and dear to my heart. I hope I can get through it without crying and without editing it. So I really want to give you the raw, unedited stuff that you want to know. So one of the things that I feel like I don't really put into my videos as much is me, Blogging Brandi, and I kind of want to tell you, I guess, why that is. So part of it is probably me being scared and not sure how much I can share with you. There's been so many of you that have reached out to me on the phone and in emails and on my social media, and when I really get to talk to you and hear your stories, it makes me think, wow, I wish I could tell you mine. So I thought today we would do just that. So in this video, I really wanted to tell you my story about how I got started RVing and why I RV, and I guess how my RV life came to be. Whew. So if you don't have something to sip on, this would be the time to get it. You might not want coffee, you might want wine or something a little bit harder. So first off, thank you for being here. Thank you for all my fans, followers, people that watch me and I never get to talk to you, or maybe I have talked to you. So I started out as a little kid. I remember that I was driving with my dad and we would be driving past these trailer parks when I was really, really young, and we'd always be going to visit our family. So my family's from Alabama and I grew up in Georgia. And we've always had to come back to Alabama to visit the family for all the family gatherings and whatnot. So when I was a little kid, I just remember coming out to these family events and we would pass by these trailer parks and my dad would say, "Oh, Brandi, I bet a cosmetologist lives there." And so at the time, my cousin was starting to be a cosmetologist and training for that, and she was so pretty and I really wanted to be like her. So I was getting ready to go to school to be a cosmetologist, or I was doing it in school, let me say that. So they had a vocational program in the school that I was at, and so when I was young and watching my cousin, I wanted to grow up and do that. So my dad always put this thing in my head that if you lived in a trailer park, that I guess you weren't good. And I don't want anyone to think that my dad is bad. Like, my dad has the nicest heart in the whole world, but growing up at a young age and hearing someone say that to me, I guess it put in my mind that living in a trailer park was bad and not having money was bad. And so my dad was always about, you really need to make money. And so my dad grew up really poor and always taught us that we really needed to strive, that success was money. So I went to school to be a cosmetologist. When I was 16, I started doing it in high school, and then when I was 18, I actually started into cosmetology college, I guess, or master cosmetology college, beauty college. And so I actually had my license literally like the year I came out of school, from high school, because I had all my hours built up. So while I was in high school, I was a straight A student. I made really good grades. I graduated in the top 5 of my class. Every year I was in the top 5 of my class. I just really felt like I needed to make A's. And honestly, like, my parents never cared that I made A's or anything like that. And part of that comes from maybe wanting to be perfect to please my dad. And what's crazy is that when I was in 4th grade, so let me back up a little bit. When I was in 4th grade, my dad and my mom separated. So they got a divorce, and I've pretty much lived 2 separate lives my entire life. And that's not even like the craziest part of my life. So it gets better. But this is real. This is me. I'm such a crybaby. So, I never really realized, like, how much that affected me. Probably until now, like, in my life. And I'm 35 now. So, I just celebrated my birthday last month. And I still have these things from, like, childhood that I guess haunt me. And probably why I'm living in this RV. So, let me further explain. So, when I was in 4th grade, my parents got a divorce, and I remember just living 2 separate lives. So I had 2 separate Christmases, 2 separate birthdays, 2 separate everything. So it was really crazy. And I don't know, you might have came from a divorced family, so you might be able to relate. So, growing up, it was my family. I had, like, my mom, I lived with my mom. My dad lived in a separate place, and so that was in Georgia. And then our whole family, both my mom's and my dad's, lived in Alabama in 2 separate places. So it was just so crazy. And so I didn't really get to see my family as much growing up. So we kind of grew up on our own or by ourselves out there in Atlanta. So my dad, like, moved us away to Georgia. And I love my dad. Please don't think that my dad is, like, bad. My dad has learned that what he did was wrong and, you know, asked for forgiveness and whatnot. So, fast forward. So I grew up, my dad talking about the trailer park. My parents got a divorce. I ended up, yes, going to cosmetology school. So I do have my cosmetology license, and if you don't know what that is when you cut hair and you do makeup and nails and skin. So it's just to make people look pretty. So I went through my teenage years, and there was this very significant event in my life that changed the course of my life, which I thought was in my teenage years, which actually wasn't until I was probably about 5 years ago. So, when I was 16, my mom had remarried at the time, and my stepdad, who I thought was a really good person at the time, and I know people go through things, ended up being not such a good person. And I didn't really realize that he wasn't a good person until after he was out of my life. So, here I am, this perfect straight A student, never missing days of school for a while. I think I probably started missing days of school, but I was just so intent on doing good and making everything look perfect from the outside that I was making straight A's and I was this perfect student and trying to show that I was successful, but in the back of everything, I had this secret. And so, one of my stepdad's friends, who became a really good friend of the family, it was a 4th of July weekend, and I had wanted to go spend the night. They had a pool, him and his wife, and they had just had a baby. And I just, I was 16, I had just got my car, I could drive. I probably had my license for about April, May, June, July, so 4 months. I had just got my freedom. And this person decided to take that from me. And that night, I woke up to someone doing things to me that no one should be doing. And so, when I was in high school, nobody knows this, so after that happened, I went into a deep depression, and at the time, this is gonna sound crazy, I had also lost my stepbrother. So my stepbrother was involved in a really bad car accident and passed away. And my stepdad was grieving from that, and he started drinking. And my parents were separating at the time, or my stepdad and mom were separating at the time. So, I called him to tell him what happened, and his response was, and this was his best friend, his response to me was, well, what do you want me to do about it? And you know, this was the man that was raising me during a lot of my developmental years, and he didn't encourage me to be like the best female as a dad should. He encouraged me to be more of a sexy and provocative female, and that it was okay to be with men and not value my body. So, after that event, I went into like a deep depression. I was on so many antidepressants, and I got fat. I gained like 30 or 40 pounds. I had horrible acne in school, and I was teased all throughout high school. I remember this one girl calling me crater face, and all of these drugs that I was on was messing with my hormones and my face. And you know, I know that my mom was trying to do the best that she could and take me and get me the help that I needed, but she was a single parent at that time, and as much as I love my dad, he's not always the most loving, or he doesn't show his love in the most caring way. And it was just such a hard time in my life. And yes, we went to the police department, and they did not protect me. So this person still walks around here on this earth, and it's crazy. It's crazy to think about. I always think about if I saw him out somewhere. So I went through my high school years making straight A's, and needless to say, on all of these medications. And at some point, you know, I didn't want to live anymore. I wanted to escape this life, this horror, because all I could think about in my head is what this person did to me. And then I was trying to find love by using my body and letting men use me and not valuing myself as a woman. So I was in and out of, I think I went to 2 mental institutions. My mom checked me in once, and I think the police checked me in once, because I was just, these medications, I swear, were making me crazy. So here I am, 16, so probably between 16, 17, 18, I was in 2 mental institutions, in and out, on and off of medication, seeing psychologists and psychiatrists, and I just feel like all of that stuff made me crazy. So, fast forward, all I thought about really up until I was 30 was that moment in my life. So, you know, in the back of my mind, when I turned 21, you know, I partied, I did that thing, I have dated so many guys that literally used me. I've helped people build businesses. They've taken so much money from me. And here I am, the girl that I ended up, so I went to cosmetology school. And then when I was in I got out of cosmetology school, I started doing my hair thing. And I went into finance. So I got my finance degree, and I ended up working for a very well-known firm. And I've done accounting, I've done finance, so I've done a lot. My licenses would surprise you of what I actually have under my belt, but that's what's crazy is underneath all of this, here I am getting all of these degrees and looking like this perfect person to everyone outside. I had the fancy cars, I had the nice condo, but little did anyone know that here I am being used and abused by men all my life. Men have stolen money from me. They've stolen my value as a woman. They have, and I've allowed it, you know. But there was this changing moment in my 20s when I dated this one guy. So I had this one guy that abused me when I was like 21, and I didn't even know what abuse was. But this person literally would tell me the color of my hair, what the color should be, and what time I needed to be home. And he would call the place that I worked at, and if I didn't answer the phone, he would say, "Oh my God, you must be sleeping with the boss or sleeping with this person." Like, it was psychotic stuff that I didn't know was abuse at the time. I had no idea. I was 21 years old. Later in my 20s, so actually, let me inform you, my stepdad passed away, so he's no longer on this earth, which I'm not upset about. This other guy that I dated that was horrible and abusive to me, horrible and abusive, passed away, which sadly enough, I'm not really that sad about. So there's these people that were in my life that I didn't realize were not good people, who are not here anymore, so I actually don't have to fear them. So, I went into my 20s. I'm sorry if I'm not looking at the camera. I'm like trying to think and trying to gather my thoughts and trying to tell the story in the easiest way possible. So, I went into my 20s, and I'm sure there's things I'm leaving out, but I did not want to script this. I really wanted to tell you the raw, true footage. And this has been weighing on my heart for a while. So, later in my 20s, I met someone else who, first, it was kind of crazy because I had never dated outside of my race. So, I was dating a black, African American, whatever you want to call it. I don't even know what's politically correct. I really don't care. But I went through that. I introduced that to my family, and that was the hardest thing ever, but it taught me that the color of skin doesn't matter. And not that that part matters, but that probably leads up to like where I'm at now. So I let this person who showed me a lot of things in my life. He taught me that it was okay to not wear my makeup and that I was still beautiful, and that there were other things to cherish in life. So this was the first person in my life that I ever went through, like, really, I guess, financial hardships. It wasn't even my financial hardship, it was his financial hardship. I was supporting, at the time, I was in my early 20s, so I was probably like 24, 25. I was supporting this guy that was literally using me to pay his child support and his mortgages. I was the one with a job. He got fired from his job, and he blames that on me because I sent him a sexy photo to his phone, and he opened it in his, I don't know if he opened it in his work email or whatever, I don't know. So I was being a great girlfriend. I sent like a really nice picture that I thought was a great thing, sent that to him, and he got fired from his job. He blamed that on me for the longest time, so I felt the need to help him start this business and do this thing. So I used all of my funds. I was working, I was out of college at the time, I had an amazing job, I was making really good money, and he literally was costing me my job. I was getting called into the office because I was always dealing with something. Every time he called my phone, it was always, hey, I need to talk to you when you get off. Oh my God, something's happening. And I never even knew what it was like to pull money out on a credit card. I had always been taught to save, and my parents always taught me about putting money away, and so I had a really nice life. Even though I had all these horrible things going on, my parents really always tried to give me an amazing life. And I let these people use me, but I really didn't know that these people were using me. I was in my 20s, so this was in my later 20s, I was in this relationship with him, or I guess my mid to late 20s I was going. We were dating. There was just something, I remember seeing that he lied to me about some checks that were going out or some money that was being spent. Here I am thinking I'm this woman and we're going to get married one day and I'm building a house for us, and like, looking back, I was so naive and stupid. But this person literally stole so much money from me. He always had something going on. His brother had a gambling problem. I needed to rescue him from that, and for some reason I was always the rescuer. So I didn't realize this at the time. And I finally went to this psychologist or psychiatrist at the time, and I was telling him, my boyfriend this, my boyfriend that, and he finally stopped me, and he was like, hey, you know, there's this pattern in your life that you keep talking about, and you just keep saying everything's happening because of other people. And he asked me, have you ever heard of this word codependency? And I was like, I don't know, I've never heard of that word before. So that night, literally, like, was a light bulb for me. And I started looking at this word codependency, and what it means is that you find your happiness through other people. And so if you're not saving them and rescuing them and helping them through life get over things, then you're not doing your job, or you can't be happy. And so I was always happy being second place. You know, in high school, I had friends, but I was always the person that people would call if their other plans fell through. Even the girl, I was always the girl that the guy would call if the other girl didn't want him. I was a tomboy in high school, like I told you. I had acne and I got fat, and then, you know, I guess I felt this need to go into beauty, and if I was pretty, then the world would change. And I guess it did in a way, but honestly, if you notice, like, I have no makeup on. I really don't wear makeup anymore because, I mean, I used to have my makeup on to go let my dogs out. My dogs would have to suffer for me to have my makeup on, to be able to go out into the world so that they could see me with my makeup on. So that's really sad and pathetic, okay? And now when I see girls just so worried about their makeup, I mean, I just went out on my birthday and had no makeup on, and we went to a fine dining restaurant, and I had an amazing time, and I don't care. And I actually had my nails done when they started chipping, and I said, this is why I don't get my nails done. And they had been stepped on and whatever. So I know that you can pay for way better manicures, but my boyfriend did an amazing thing for my birthday, and so I don't care. But I'm trying not to get off course. I'm trying to tell you this whole story without editing it and really give you the raw. Okay, so all of y'all asked me about my RV life and how I got into it, and this is really probably how I ended up in an RV. So I've had these men probably do all of these horrible things to me, and I don't want to sit here and say like, oh, my pity party. I have been very blessed in my life. My parents grew up without a lot and strived to work to have a lot. My mom is super loving and caring, and she is my rock, and I love my mom so much. I love my dad as well, and I have step parents. So I do have a very loving family. But these events have pulled me away from those relationships and really forced me to go into my own hole. And you know, I went through this thing helping someone build their business, and they were literally robbing me blind. And I actually saw them the other day at Goodwill, and I did everything I could not to look at them because I wanted to punch them in the face. So you might think I'm a really nice person, and usually I am, but needless to say, that was something all on its own. So fast forward to now. I just want to make sure this is recording so that we get this. Yes, this is recording. I know that sounds crazy, but I had to put my phone. I'm recording this with my phone, so that's how raw this is. I was trying to get my camera and whatnot, but yeah. So I'm trying not to get off topic. I'm trying to just get to the real, so there's more coming up. Dated this guy, dated horrible guys. This guy used me, abused me. I would say he abused me financially and made me feel like I was responsible for pulling him out of the ground that he created. And no one gets fired for just one picture that comes through. So he also told me that he was really not liked. And then, you know, I'm thinking back about how naive I was that this person wouldn't sell their cars and had 2 houses, and here I am. I even offered to move into one of the homes and rent it instead of me paying for an apartment, and his words to me were, well, I don't want your dogs in my house. So you cared more about your house than you cared about me and so much more. So anyways, thank God that relationship ended. And I moved on to something way better. So here I am now. I was with that person. I had this amazing job. I still had this amazing job when we finally broke up. So there came a time where we finally just said our goodbyes, and it was just super stressful. I saw he was using me, but I just couldn't put all the pieces together. So anyways, he took a lot of money from me, like a lot of money. So at that point in time, I started learning what codependency was, and that I needed to stop letting people run over me. And my mom had always been this loving person and told me that you always just give to other people. But she failed to inform me that at some point you have to tell people no. So you can't just always be a yes person. So I got to this next relationship, and I didn't know what it was to love someone. I really didn't. So here I am with this amazing job, and I met my boyfriend that was an entrepreneur, and he really started helping me see something else. So I was honestly working this job. It's 7 to 5, 7 to 6, 7 to whatever, I don't know. I was working this job, and there's so much I could tell you about like my job life and other things that happened, but I'm trying to tell you like the most significant events. So I did do some job transitioning during this. I moved positions within the company because this guy had really put a strain on the position that I was in with this one group, so I ended up moving to this other position, which ended up working out for me because then my income, like, I don't want to say doubled, but I was making 6 figures, okay? So then I started making 6 figures in this other position, and it's kind of like a blessing in disguise. So this guy kind of cost me my job. I was crying all the time. I couldn't really operate. I had this amazing job, and here I am. I can't even do my duties. I was still doing my duties, but, you know, I'm crying, and things are just going crazy. So, and I, like, moved every year. So I lived in the same house for about 20 years, and then when I was in Atlanta doing different jobs and driving all over, moving every year. So that's how I kind of, like, learned to get rid of stuff, was moving every year. So I would sign a different lease and different things would happen and whatever. So had this amazing job. This guy literally kind of cost me my job because at some point my welcome was worn out with this group, and I was doing an amazing job, but they figured out that I had trained everybody so well that they didn't need me anymore. So kind of used them to get my second position within the same company. So like I said, I got a really ballin' raise. I got paid different. I got to walk to work. I sold my car. I bought a condo. I was living the dream. I was driving a Lexus, and then I had like a Nissan 350Z, and then I think I got a Kia Soul. So I've had all kinds of things. I had Volkswagen Jettas. I've had lots of cars. So I felt, you know, at the time that I needed this condo, and I needed this job, and I needed these fancy things, and I wasn't like a person that needed stuff. It was just that I was living this really nice lifestyle. I really wanted to live in Buckhead, Atlanta. And if you don't know that place, it's very uppity. Think like Louis Vuittons and Jimmy Choo's and just really fancy stuff. Not to say that I'm not like a fancy kind of girl, but I'm from the country, so I'm very simple, or I have become very simple. So I was living this life, this fancy life, and, you know, my dad always hated it that I lived there, and I don't really care because it brought me to where I'm at now. So, dating this guy that was an entrepreneur, and he really made me think. I was seeing him sitting at home playing video games with his friends, and he had this nice condo and driving this, well, at the time he didn't have the fancy car. He got the fancy car years after we had been together, but, you know, lived this really nice life. I was working my butt off to live a nice life, and I was just watching him, and I was thinking, man, if he can do it, I can do it. So I started Googling things, reading books. There's some books that literally, like, changed my life. So if you've never heard of The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, will literally change your life. I started reading a codependency book called Codependency No More by, I think her name's Melanie Beadle or Battle. And like I said, things started to change. So I started to value myself more. I got with this person. I was watching all the things that he was doing. And let me remind you that we were both in our 20s, late 20s. So I decided that I wanted to start my own company. And it's not that I didn't do these things when I was growing up. Like, I tried to do my own self-tanning business, or I had my own self-tanning business, and I did my own hair thing. So there's other things in between, which this life story could go on forever if I told you all that. But he wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I was like, okay. Well, I didn't know that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew I had that inside of me, and I was watching him, and I was thinking, he's starting to make so much money, or he makes either as much money as me or more than me. I'm making 6 figures, but I'm working my butt off. So there was something that just kind of sparked inside of me, and I started just scouring the internet and wanting to start a business, but I really didn't know what I wanted to start. And I came across, I think he told me at the time that I should do this vaping business. So at the time, these like e-liquid droppers that you smoke, and those vape pens were like a big thing. And I didn't smoke, so it wasn't a thing for me. So I don't know why I started this business. This business ended up being a horrible fail. And it wasn't necessarily a horrible fail. It was more of a failure that I decided to pull out of. So I morally was like, I don't want to sell this thing. I don't smoke. I don't want people to die from the thing that I'm selling. I couldn't run ads on my product. Needless to say, my first business was not a success. So I started then I started dabbling online. So I started learning about selling online and what I couldn't sell online and what I could sell online. So instead of I spent all this money and made my own product and whatnot. And so then I decided to start another business, and I was watching this webinar that I saw online, and it was about how to resell items that you found maybe from like China or overseas and sell them on Amazon and eBay. So I started flipping these items, and I was starting to make so much money buying these items that I was finding either at the stores, like I was going to like Goodwills and Targets and Walmarts, and then I was starting to figure out how to I was literally getting like pallets delivered to my luxury condo. So I had this $250,000 condo that I was getting trucks of random merchandise delivered into the bay downstairs, and I was having to unpack it and put it on my carts and drag it all upstairs, and my condo was like literally lined to the walls with stuff to sell. And I just got so excited, I just kept ordering more stuff, and it became overwhelming at some point, but it allowed me to quit my job. So I got this bright idea that I would quit my job. And I was like, well, I'm making so much money, and I have this bonus coming up, and I have some money saved in my 401k, and so if something really goes bad, maybe I could use that money. So I literally had about 6 months worth of income to live on, and I really wanted to quit my job. I was putting a smile on my face. I was reading this book. I was going through the motions, essentially. And my boss called me in one day and said something about the security team found something that I had went to on my computer, and really all it was a third-party service that helped change your prices automatically, I think, on Amazon or eBay. I don't know. So it wasn't really anything bad. It wasn't like a naughty website or anything like that. But I assume in corporate America things are still blocked, like YouTube and social media. I don't know. I haven't been in corporate America for so long, but I also wasn't on social media or anything like that when I was in corporate America, so it wasn't a thing for me. So this was, I guess, 6 years ago when I quit my job. And I'll probably have to make like another video about how I really quit my job and how this came to be. But quit my job, was watching my boyfriend, who was an entrepreneur, and I was like, if he can do it, I can do it. And so I got that bug inside of me. I started a couple businesses. I ended up developing an app eventually, and writing a book, and what else? I did like custom t-shirts and mugs and merchandise and some other things. So needless to say, he led me down my entrepreneurial journey. But I had quit my job. I want to say it was probably like 6 months after I quit my job, and I was starting this business and things were going great. And hopefully I'm not like getting ahead of myself or going too far behind, but I got like the shock of my life. So things are going amazing. I've quit my job. I got my business started. At the time, I even opened an office. And so I was making all this money online. And right before I quit my job, I had just bought a car. So I had a car to get around, because I told you I didn't have a car when I was at my job. Eventually, I sold my fancy cars and walked to work. And so don't ask me where I was headed at this point in my life. I don't really know. But I got pregnant. I found out that I was going to be a mom. And my whole life changed. I don't even know all the emotions that were going through me at the time. But I went through my pregnancy, and I remember telling my boyfriend at the time that I really wanted, well, I remember telling him, and he was just like, oh my God, my parents can't find out, what are we gonna do, you can't have this baby. And it was probably like, I don't know, a month to almost 2 months of pure like terror of my body was going through all these changes. I didn't drink, I didn't do anything, I didn't take pills, I didn't do anything. I was literally like trying to prepare to become a mom. And I was so scared. And my boyfriend took me to psychiatrists and counselors and churches and clinics, and said, you know, let's go and, you know, talk about this. Let's just make sure that this is going to be the right decision. And I remember us going to talk to my stepdad at the time, and I've had several stepdads, so my stepdad told us, like, hey, you know, and he was such a churchy person, and I've grown up knowing God and going to church, and I didn't even tell you that I think I got a DUI when I was, I don't know, maybe 24, or in my wild years, and dating all these guys, and that to me is like a bloop on the radar. I didn't even get a DUI, it got reduced down to something else. So, you know, I've even been in handcuffs, guys, for something stupid like that. But those were like things I don't even think about, because this one event has haunted me for the rest of my life. So we went around to all these clinics and churches and all these people giving me opinions, and I remember sitting in this clinic and looking around at these people, and I was like, I don't belong here. I don't belong here. But I felt all this pressure on me to make a decision, and my stepdad said, you know, hey, you know, if you don't feel that right now is the right time, then you don't have to have this kid. And I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would I like to say murder my child, because that's what I feel like I did. But I had an abortion. And it haunted me for the longest time. Here I was, this perfect kid, this girl that made all these A's and had all these dark secrets that nobody knew about. All they saw was these fancy cars and my lifestyle and my money and my beauty. Men looked at me because of the makeup that I had on and the clothes that I wore and the things that I had and the career, and they always say, you know, I want that girl. But a lot of them aren't willing to do what it takes to have that girl, okay? And all of those things have brought me to where I am now. So I truly didn't know what it was like to love someone until that event. And I remember telling this pastor, I was like, you know, sitting in there looking at those people, I was like, I don't belong here. And he said, you don't. And here I am. I know right from wrong. And I made the best decision at the time that I could. That I thought was the right decision. And I felt so much pressure. But let me tell you, when you go through something, you can either sit there and you can keep crying and dealing with it in sorrow by yourself, which is what I did. I went through this crazy moment and I said, you know what? I need to heal. I don't know how to do this. I bled for 2 or 3 months, well, 3-4 months. I bled for months. My body changed. My boobs are not the same. My body is not the same. It doesn't feel the same, you know? I'm still a skinny person, but I just don't feel the same. So, you go through this dark moment, and I feel like I want to take responsibility and say, we made this decision. But I did feel pressured in the decision that I made, and it was my body. And I did make the decision. But I'm not happy about the decision that I made. I feel convicted, and it took me a really long time to ask forgiveness and feel forgiven. And I still have my days, okay? But I started to just go through this moment in my life, and I said, well, I want to sell my condo. I want to sell everything I have. I want to get rid of my business. I want to just go heal. So I literally started like a year-long process of selling my car and selling my house and selling everything I own. My boyfriend said that I was selling a lifestyle. So it's like lifestyle for sale. And I really was. I sold everything. I quit wearing makeup because when I got pregnant, there was all these things that they were like, you can't do this to your body or use this on your body. So I started learning like all these things that were like bad from your body, bad for your body. So I went through this dark moment, and when I sold everything, like I said, I have no idea where this RV thing came from, but at some point I feel like God laid it on my heart that like, go get an RV. So I got this bright idea that I would buy this RV, and I bought this travel trailer, and I drove down to Jekyll Island, Georgia, and I sat on this island, and I was trying to figure this trailer out, and I wanted to just heal, and I've always loved to write, so I came up with this great idea that I was going to start a blog and heal and help other women, and here I am not healed, trying to do that. So then I wanted to talk about my RV, and so I started talking about my RV, and I was learning about my RV, so I wanted to teach people, and I've always been a teacher. So I just have always loved to teach people. So if you ever look at my videos, a lot of them say how to, because I really love to teach. And that has to do with like SEO and ranking my videos. But I really don't share this stuff, and I've never shared anything like this, and so I feel trapped. I feel like I can't move forward, maybe unless I confess or unless you know this about me, and why I've somehow ended up in this RV. So I bought this RV, that RV, ended up, trying to heal and going through, trying to start a business and figured out, like, trying to blog. And how I actually ended up on YouTube is when I was down there, I was trying to get this guy to help me with my website, and I was telling him about this chaos going on in my life, and he was like, I've never met him, still to this day, we've only talked on the phone, and I had found him online, and so he was like, oh my gosh, have you ever thought about doing YouTube videos? And I was like, me? YouTube videos? I'd probably be really good at YouTube videos, but I had never been on camera, never done anything like that in my life. So I think I started recording about my RV, and then I did like a Vegas vlog and some other stuff. So for those of you that don't know, I actually have like another channel that I started way before I started RVersity, and this channel. So, and my boyfriend had started teasing me saying, "What, are you going to be a blogger? Blogging Brandi, Blogging Brandi." So if you ever wonder where the name Blogging Brandi came from, it's because someone was hating on me, making fun of me, and I was like, oh, it kind of has a ring to it. So then I said, oh, I'll just be Blogging Brandi. And so nobody had the name at the time, and so I started that. So sold everything, was doing this RV thing, wanted to heal, decided I was going to be a blogger, started a YouTube channel, didn't have any idea what I was doing. And so really RVing and YouTube and the internet and starting a business and going through all of this has really changed my life, seriously. Because people find me on YouTube, probably like how you found me or why you're watching me. They find me online and they say, hey, you know, I really like what you're doing. Will you show me how to do that? Or how'd you get there? And so, you know, I've coached and consulted people. I've helped people do all kinds of stuff. So when I didn't know what I wanted to do, I was helping people build websites and SEO and start their own YouTube channels and everything under the sun. I wrote a book. I developed an app, like I mentioned. I sold merchandise. I was doing online sales from Amazon and eBay. I had fallen back on that here and there. I sold my services. I had sold other people's products and services. It was crazy. So I felt like people were telling me, oh, you should do this, you'd be good at this. And so I was doing all of these businesses. But what I didn't realize is when you try to do all of these businesses, you're really not doing anything. So I was trying to start a business. I had this RV. Then I was involved in this horrible accident, which is kind of how it led me into that. So I was involved probably about 4 months after I got my travel trailer. Someone clipped my RV or clipped the front of my truck that I was towing with at the time, and my RV rolled on the interstate, and I was literally like in a year of insurance claims and recovery, and I'm very thankful to be alive. So I was trying to heal. I went through this horrible RV accident. So then I'm going through that. And then I spent about a year dealing with insurance and recovering and just getting back to myself while I'm still healing from losing my child, which is what I tell people all the time. I say I lost my child, but I did lose my child, but it was my decision, and it brought me to where I am, and I'm so much stronger now. I'm in a different place in my life. But quit my job, like I said, about 6 years ago, went through this entrepreneurship thing, and I had started my business before quitting my job, was making that money, then bought my travel trailer. So I did not quit my job and buy an RV and start a business, like a lot of people maybe think or think you should do. And some people say, oh, you have a trust fund. No, I had a college degree. I had a cosmetology license. I had several other licenses like insurance and Series 77 and 66 and some other weird licenses for finance and securities. So I used to trade stocks on like the New York Stock Exchange and help people plan their retirement and their lifestyles and figure out their budgets. And so that's probably why I talk about money and finance in a different way, I guess, on my channel. Or like I had this finance video that went really well, and I was like, oh, maybe I should make another video on that, but that's a side subject. So started this business, went through lots of transitions, ended up deciding to buy this Winnebago van that I found because I was like, okay, well, you know, I really wanted to get married. And then I kind of had like baby fever after I lost my child. Then I thought, well, I want to have a child. And, you know, I went through all those emotions, and I worried about, was I not going to be able to have a child again? And how was I going to be able to pick up these pieces? And maybe I was going to have to go back and live with my mom. And, you know, I sold my house. I stayed with my boyfriend for a while in his home, and I just felt like we were being forced into this, I don't want to say marriage, or I wanted him to love me and be with me for me, not because of this thing that we went through. And so I tried to still have my own life. So I was doing this RV thing, and he still had this condo, and he's not like trying to do this RV thing. Or he was learning about it. So he embraced it a lot. He went through this process with me, and he has been an amazing rock, and I don't want to say that he hasn't had his faults. He has had his faults. It has been very challenging, but like I mentioned, I truly never knew how to love someone and love my life and love where I'm at and the things that I've gone through until I went through all of this looking back. So when I had my van, I bought it from a really, really well-known, probably the largest RV dealership that you can think of in USA. And it was horrible. I had so many issues with this van. There was recalls. It was crazy. For the first year, I dealt with so many recalls on this van, and I cried and I bitched and complained, and finally got them to trade it out for so I went from a 2016 to a 2018. So it was like literally about, then when I got the 2018, I literally had like all the same problems. It caught on fire. I had electrical issues and water problems, and things never worked. Okay, so that is why I quit van life, is because van life was not for me. Trailer life and towing was not for me. I even tried to tow my smart car behind my van at the time, and someone ended up stealing my trailer. So I don't tow. So that's what fast forwarded me to this RV. So during all of this, you know, I had my dogs at the time. I've lost both my dogs that were on this journey with me, and probably due to stress. One of them died. She was only 7 or 8 years old, little Dutchie. And we had to put Prinny down. I guess it would be 2 years now. So I wanted to share all of this that I was going through, but when I mentioned that I bought this van from this company, I was forced to, well, I don't say they tried to force me, but depending on whose names were on paperwork and some other things, they required, in order for us to switch the van out, that we sign an NDA, which is a non-disclosure agreement, that I was not allowed to talk about the events or the circumstances that surrounded my van or my RV and all the issues that went along with it. So I have felt trapped that I wasn't allowed to tell you about my life or what happened, and that's kind of like where I'm at. So once I had the van issue gone, actually when my dog was dying, we went to Las Vegas, and I had my smart car, and this guy saw it, and we were just peeking at other RVs, and he was like, you know what, I actually have the perfect RV for you. So that's actually how I ended up in this RV. So now I'm in my motorhome. If you haven't seen, my smart car goes inside my motorhome, like actually in this garage that we're in. I have a video about that on my channel. And this guy was like, hey, you should get this RV. And so we started doing a lot of research about like what weight it can handle and the different year models and whatnot, and I couldn't really find one. So all my RVs up until this point, I had 3. My trailer and the 2 vans were all new. I had so many issues out of them between my wreck. I also had issues before the wreck, and then my van, and so many issues. I just was trying to find something to be, I guess, a home and not have to deal with towing, since someone had stole my trailer as well. So I just was done, you know. I'm trying to heal, start a business, and learn how to RV at the same time, while my life is not in one place. So I'm literally being forced to travel. I couldn't find an RV park or a place to park my RV that was close to, you know, I wanted to be close to my boyfriend because he still had his condo in Atlanta, and I'm just, I guess, trying to please everyone. I want to be with him. I'm hoping, you know, he's going to put a ring on my finger, so I'm getting these RVs and traveling and trying to heal and thinking, you know, either one day he's going to join me or one day he's going to put a ring on my finger, and the RV will be maybe a part-time thing and I'll be in the house with him. So somehow, you know, I've ended up here, and probably more primarily, once I bought this RV, we traveled for literally like 6 months to find this RV, to find a used one that someone didn't tamper with or do weird things to, and at a good price. So found it in Tampa. My dog had passed away during that time, and had the RV, did a lot of traveling in Florida, honestly a lot by myself. My boyfriend would come back and forth, and he would stay with me for a couple weeks. I had this camping pass, and you know, it started to get expensive. So the RV life, just, I was trying to learn it. I had this new RV. I was scared. I was intimidated. I had this big motorhome, and I talk with my hands a lot, so I'm sorry. But it ended up being, I mean, a blessing in disguise. So someone stole my trailer, so it was a blessing that I ended up getting this RV because it led me here. And then traveling, decided to finally take a trip to Las Vegas in this RV. We're sitting there and COVID hits, you know, and ended up back here, and I'm in Alabama now. So at the time, I just really wanted peace in my life, and I decided to chill. I had been traveling for like 4 or 5 years. I didn't have a stable life, and I ended up deciding to just take the RV, get back to Alabama. My family's in Alabama. My mom lives in Alabama. My dad lives the opposite direction over towards Atlanta. So I'm like literally on this stretch of road. And then my boyfriend still has his condo in Atlanta. So, yeah. I live in an RV park. When COVID hit, I decided to settle down here. And so the last year, I've really just worked on my business and really tried to dial into what I was passionate about and what I wanted, and really embrace this RV thing. And it has been a roller coaster, but you know, this whole RV life has strengthened my relationship, has made me a better person. I've been through amazing personal growth, and I can't say that I'm completely healed. I don't know if you ever are, but I'm forgiven. I've asked God for forgiveness. I have come through this thing. I've met some amazing people, and the more that I share my story and the more that I meet people, I'm starting to hear their stories, and it just makes me feel like I couldn't go forward without telling you mine. And I'm sure there's things I left out, and there'll probably be a part 2, but I wanted you to know my story and where I came from and how I ended up in this RV. And, you know, there's other blessings that came out of COVID, like this beautiful girl, who's this cutie pie. So I started fostering doggies, and I learned really what it is to love animals and love other people. And yeah, so that's where I'm at now. So I live in an RV park in my RV, and I make it work. So I have time with my mom. I have time with my dad. I have Birdie, my dog. That's her name, Birdie. Come here, Birdie. Are you crawling on stuff? Come here. So Birdie is a cutie pie. She needs a haircut. She just got a bath, but it rained outside. So yeah, that's where I'm at, you know. So I guess I'm sure that there's people that have hateful comments to say or positive comments to say, and maybe you've been through a similar experience, but that's what I guess I should tell you, kind of like what I do now. So a lot of people say, like, how do you make money, or what do you do now, or what brought you to where you're at? Like, now you know what brought me to where I'm at, but this last year, instead of having all of these businesses and all of these other things going on, which I do have multiple streams of income, but I really tried to dial down on what I wanted. So now I teach people who want to embrace this RV life and RV living, and you know, going and meeting all these different people on the road and seeing how other people live in other parts of the country, and that it's not always glamorous, and you get to go out there and dump your poo and remember that water is not unlimited all the time when you're traveling, and that everything doesn't always go great and breakdowns happen. And so it's a huge personal growth journey, especially like when you're by yourself and these things are happening. You know, I love it when my boyfriend is with me, because he'll usually fix things. But like I said, we've both been through some amazing personal growth. I wanted to share this story and try to protect as many people as I could. And yeah, I know that I'm not ashamed of my story anymore, and I want people to know who I am and where I come from. So this is me. This is the raw, unedited. This is the stuff that you really wanted to know, and I want to share more of that with you. So I guess I'll see you in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. The next video won't be like this as much, but I do want to know, I guess, maybe what else you want to know. What do you want to know about my RV life and my business, and maybe what have you gone through? So I'll see you in the comments. Please subscribe. If you want to reach me, you can reach me at RVersity.com. My contact info is there. I figured this video might be a little personal, so I wasn't sure that I wanted to tell you to like book a call with me or send me an email. I wasn't really sure where I wanted to go with that. So this was more for my fans and followers and people that don't know me, and raw and unedited. So this is it. This is me. This is Blogging Brandi, and this is why I live in an RV and how my RV life came to be and how I became an entrepreneur. Really, how this whole thing happened. So signing out. Peace out. Subscribe and hit the bell icon so you're notified the next time I publish, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for your support, guys. I love you so much.